Welcome to Ask Gwen, everyone. Today I have Michael. Michael is a fabulous podcast host, and he is the host of One More Thing Before You Go. And I had the privilege of being on his podcast. So now it's my turn to interview him. And I met stuff on his podcast that you guys know, and we go into great detail about my emotional and physical abuse. So when that comes out, I'll be sharing that. But I'm going to let Michael take it away and start sharing his story. By the way, he's a retired cop, and so he's just going to take it away, you guys. So welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you very much, Wynn, for allowing me to partake within your conversation. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate. I really appreciate
And
it.
so, what are you doing now that you're retired? And could you please explain to my audience more about your podcast and why you started it?
Abs- Absolutely. As Wynn said, I am a retired police sergeant. I was actually injured in the line of duty and was forced to take a medical disability because of it. So that kind of changed my direction in life, and I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do to keep myself busy. And I love to talk. So loving to talk, it allowed me to create an environment that I could talk a lot. So
Yes.
it's been a journey. Um, After I was injured on the job, I actually was diagnosed to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I went through about 5 different operations. I developed severe rheumatoid arthritis during that time period, and um, it I spent some time in a wheelchair actually, and through some management of my disease and some we'll say reflection upon my life and the direction that it had been going at the time, I chose that I wanted to not be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. So um, the first thing I did was go back to school, and I got a master's degree in interdisciplinary studies with the performance on digital media, the performance and digital media, and I did a documentary. And the documentary was basically the same thing as my podcast, the One More Thing Before You Go. When I had gotten injured and I thought that I would basically be, I'm not going to say stuck in a wheelchair because that's the wrong terminology. But when I realized that I may not be able to move forward in life like I had planned, the idea for One More Thing Before You Go kind of evolved into something a little more in depth. So that's where the documentary came in. I took all of the experiences that I had in the past, and the more I thought about them, the more I realized that the One More Thing Before You Go statement kind of encompasses a wide variety of things to include every individual that I ever had. I can speak freely, correct?
Yes.
Every individual that I had gone, police officers go to every unattended death. They go to traffic accidents. They go to suicides. They go to um, homicides. They go to anything that would, obviously, anything that happens within society. Um, I had spent a good portion of my lifetime as an investigator in the police department and as a traffic sergeant. So during both of those time periods, I was kind of privy to being with people that um, basically took their last breath and or were in the process of dying or delivering a message to a family. So during that time period, it kind of stuck with me because they were either saying, "Can you please deliver this message? Can you please tell my wife I love them? Please tell my husband I love them. Please tell my kids." It still it still resonates with me. I get emotional. So during those time periods, I felt it was important that there's always one more thing to say. There's always one more thing that you need to talk to somebody about, and that everybody should have that opportunity to say it.
Yeah.
So the documentary kind of was born from that perspective, and we created an environment where we used creative arts in order to allow people to express what they didn't get to say or didn't get to do before somebody passed away or they lost them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Um, my
Oh,
injuries, yeah, it's it was a very satisfying journey when I did that.
yeah.
But at the same time, my health started deteriorating, unfortunately, the way it was. And I had to start thinking about myself as well. And I wanted to, from the time from university, I wanted to go into filmmaking and documentary filmmaking. And that didn't happen because I actually was in a wheelchair by that time. And I kind of needed a different outlet in order to help me to try to motivate me in order to overcome my own disabilities, which I have, which we'll talk about in a second. But that's where One More Thing Before You Go podcast came about. Because I couldn't make film about it, I wanted to continue that message. I wanted to continue that opportunity for people to talk and kind of join the conversation. Make sure you get to say what you wanted to say. If you didn't get to say that opportunity at the time, you know, if you're going through it at the time, to encourage people to open a conversation and to take the time to say what you want to say or to do something with somebody that you might be taking care of or is on their last breath, so to speak.
Yeah. Um, and if you ever had the EMTs um, show up to your house, and if you ever had a person on oxygen, and if you, let's just say this person was my dad, and the EMTs had to show up to get him mobile enough to tran the day we transferred him out of here to a bigger hospital. He was still undiagnosed at this time, but I remember me having my wits about me, talking to the EMTs through the wall, and I almost um, walked into his room and I said, please don't leave him, because he was saying, I don't need help. I need oxygen. And I'm like, yes, he does need help. I was more mobile than he was and this was back in April of last year. So if you ever had that experience will shock will shock you for the rest of your life, because when the EMTs show up, one, they did a SWAT move on my house. Two, because they couldn't get in, and then two, um, I think the cops showed up plus the EMTs, and of course I was here making sure that he was halfway sane, and then I had to give him the news that he had to go. The ambulance was coming. He had to go back to the hospital because even though he agreed to it, he didn't necessarily remember what he agreed to. So, yeah. So when you have those last moments of the one more thing before you go, um, that will stick with you for the rest of your life. And so basically, what I wanted to ask you, Michael, is what is your favorite book?
I I'm gonna have to be honest with you. I don't read very much,
Ah, it's
so
okay.
it's kind of.
No.
I'm more of a movie and a TV guy and a
Then,
screenplay guy.
then what is your favorite movie?
Well, I have several of them, depending on which genre you're in, and because of that, I
Cute.
own the screenplays to each one of them. So I love Harry when Harry met Sally because of the story behind it and I mean, that's a typical love story, romantic love story, right? So I love that, and I own that screenplay. And for action movies, I mean, there's just like so many of them, I can't even really nail one down in particular. But for TV, my favorite program is SEAL Team because it actually tells stories of what they've done. They take stories that the SEAL Team 6 had accomplished, and then they transform that into the series during the week for television programs. And for drama, we just watched, and I really, really liked it. We just watched The Quiet Place.
The
And
Quiet Place. Okay.
yeah, so I own screenplays from all different genres, actually. I have,
Good.
dare I say, my movie collection and my TV collection is probably around 3,000.
Ah, well, good, good, good. Now I have to eventually sit down and watch The Quiet Place on your recommendation, Michael, because I love I love a good audiobook. I love a good movie. I haven't had the as soon as I get to my new house, the first thing I'm going to do after we hook up the smart TV is I'm going to sit there and make myself sit and watch a movie because I need to. I need to at this point. I am gonna make myself sit and watch a movie because that's um that's something I like to do. You guys think I like to do podcasting and read books? Well, no. Sitting and watching a movie is something that I love to do.
Well, the interesting part about watching a movie is if you get involved in it, you can understand it from the beginning. You get to partake within the whole journey.
Yes,
So
you can. Yes,
experience it
you.
just like they're experiencing it. You can get the anxiety and the anticipation and the sadness and the happy as they do, as long as it's a good movie.
As long as it's a good movie, I love your attitude, Michael. But what is your morning routine?
My morning routine is, like I told you, I had worked my way out of a wheelchair, and I now walk 2 or 3 miles a day. And I start my day with a smoothie and a juice with a bunch of herbs that I use to help manage my rheumatoid arthritis. So I get up in the morning. We actually I should back up 1 second. We love to go out on the back patio, so we go out and watch the sunrise every morning. So we have a cup of tea, we relax, we commune with nature. We sit amongst the trees and the bushes and the flowers, and we watch the sun come up. And then when I come in, make a smoothie. And after a smoothie, I sit down in front of my computer and I go to work and I work on my podcast.
Well, that and you never thought a podcast would be your full time job. I always tease people up until March. I said I got to kick this day job out of the way. I didn't realize a higher power was going to give me a totally new day job. I didn't realize a higher power was going to give me a totally new day job as of March and make me a full time content creator. That is dead cool.
Well, yeah, a lot of people don't understand. It's not just sitting in front of a microphone. You have to do setup and you have to do notes and you have to do a script sometimes and you have to do
Yeah,
research. And
yeah.
like you said, it's a content creator, which is, it keeps me busy. Unfortunately, keeps me more busy than when I was a cop.
Yeah, this keeps, funny enough, this keeps me more busy than when I was in the education sector, and I love it even more. So there we go.
Yeah, you know, and the best part about it is, as you know, is that the content we're creating are allowing other people to be inspired
Yeah.
and to be encouraged and to give them
Yes,
hope
exactly.
and to give them knowledge and to give them experience from our perspective or from our guest perspective, which is
Yeah.
really, you know, a nice way to be able to share with the world, the world.
Yeah, in the world. And we can do it in the comfort of our own homes with laptops. I keep teasing everyone. My motivational speaking stage is my my MacBook Air. That's my motivational speaking stage, and I just need a pair of headphones and call it good. And then, so I want to ask you, number one, where can people find you? Number two, do you have any questions for me?
Well, they can find me. I'm all over social media as well, but you can find me at www.beforeyougopodcast.com. It's kind of one word, www.beforeyougopodcast.com. You can also find me on Facebook under Before You Go Podcast. You can find me at Before You Go Podcast, on Twitter at Before You Go Pod. So I'm pretty much, hopefully, pretty much everywhere. I'm just getting involved in TikTok. So somewhere down the road, I'll be on there too.
Ah, TikTok is a new one on me too, so
It's
that makes two of us.
Yeah, I kind of got hooked on it. My kid's been trying to get me to go to it for quite some time, and once I kind of started watching it, it kind of hooked me, which I'm
Yeah.
thankful for, but not thankful for.
You're not thankful for that it kind of hooked you. So, do you have any questions for me?
I do have a couple questions, if it's okay. Number one, what's your philosophy to carry on in life in a positive way due to life stepping
Due
in?
to life, due to life challenges, um, and my philosophy in life is go bigger, go home, and you either need to put it all in or not do it at all. So, you need to put it all in or not do it at all. And so that is my philosophy.
And my other question is, and I may have asked this before, but what is your biggest challenge every day?
My biggest challenge right now is deal. I don't do well with change, and so um, luckily I have friends in high places that happen to be people that want to help me, and so they they have said to me, "Hang on to your hats in the next couple of weeks because um, we're going to see how much we can do with this house, and then I'm going to move." And it's so funny because my mom's my biological mom's best friend who happens to be selling this house. She goes, "Well, we'll just get in the car and figure it out and get you a place to live." She knows I don't like change. She knows I have cerebral palsy. So um, this is going to be the biggest change in my life. And that they say the most stressful things are losing a loved one, losing a job, and moving. Well, I have lost a job twice, loved ones twice. So moving, moving. I'm excited about it, but I'm also it's gonna be a stressful situation. Me moving, but that's what that's how I'm going to deal with change. And if you guys don't hear from me for a while, you know why because You know why? Because those of you that have moved, even down the street, know that moving is stressful.
Well, I have to ask you this because as I told you in our interview, I actually came from a small mountain town in Colorado. So, are you moving from the small mountain town?
I I am. I'm moving from Aspen, Colorado to a more conducive situation. Still in Colorado, but this more conducive situation will meet my needs because I get I when I don't have to deal with snow, I get a little less snow when I'm moving, and then even though it's still gonna be in Colorado, it's still gonna be a little less snow, and then I get access to everything. It's a small, well, I would say small metropolitan area that I'm moving to, and so that's what I am planning to do. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Michael. I certainly did. And please, 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 when his episode comes out with me, please go subscribe and listen to it. And you guys can figure out how to subscribe to One More Thing Before You Go. And I hope that you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode of Ask Lynn. Thanks, you guys. Bye, you guys.